Hey folks, Jared here with Species K9 with my lovely co-host here, Taylor. How are you, ma'am?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. You have a good Easter. This is the Monday after Easter.
Yeah, as good as we could have with the weather down here.
Yeah, a little crazy weather here in central and southern and northern Texas. They got really hammered up there. But so to kick it off, we got a little extra support from the last podcast, which is awesome. So everybody who recently subscribed, we thank you for that and the support. And we got some questions. And as promised, we did reply to everybody, letting them know we'd answer it in today's podcast. So first question comes from Dog Dog Dad Omi. Let's see, unique one. How do I motivate my dog to train when all he wants is attention? So it's actually a great one for the topic for today about is my dog stubborn. You want to take that one, Taylor? Want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, my first thought would be that attention in itself can be a reward. So if throughout the day you're giving less attention, whatever that looks like, whether that's affection, baby talk, play, whatever, throughout the day you're giving a little bit less attention, then during the times that you're training, your dog is going to be a lot more motivated to train if you're using attention as the reward. To steal your metaphor, Jared, you always talk about kids and ice cream. If you're giving a kid ice cream all the time and then you tell them if they do their homework, they'll get ice cream, they're probably not going to do their homework. It's the scarcity of something that makes it more valuable. So you can use attention as a reward to motivate them in training.
Absolutely. And I'm going to assume attention here in this context is also affection. So yes, if you're giving it all the time, the reward value to it, the monetary value to the dog is obsolete. But if you're withholding that, so that's really motivational to the dog, and they desire it, and they want it, they're gonna work for it more. I'll use Lego and Taliana for great examples. They don't get their tug toy unless they work for it. They have to do something to get their tug toy and to play tug with me. So as soon as they see that thing come out, they know, okay, I'm gonna have to do a bunch of things I really don't want to do, and then I'm gonna get to do the thing I really want to do. And they understand that concept, and it's actually called Premack principle, which we can have a whole conversation on that, the psychology of all that. But that's definitely one of the things you can do is withhold the affection and attention that you're doing it, and then when you ask them to do something or when they want it, you make them work for it. And case in point, if your dog is seeking attention a lot, like coming over and like nuzzing you and wanting pets or whatever, that's a perfect opportunity to do some commands: sit down, heel, whatever, and then give them that affection. So hopefully that answers that question. The next one up is from Devil Dog Mobile Auto Repair LLC. Are all electric collars the same? Are there others that are best to use for my dog? Well, without any details about your dog and what's going on, the first answer to that is no, they're all different. Some go have lower ranges. They go from like 1 to 10, 1 to 15 or whatever. But it's more of a stair step. It's not a gradual increase. So meaning one, jumping from 1 to 2 might be an increase to say, 15 and not in increments of 1. And so it looks like a staircase that's stepping up as it goes up in the voltage, or you want to call it the stem on it.
Intensity.
Yeah. And some stimulate the nerve endings on the dog. So it's more of a sharper type pain. I was equated to like licking a 9-volt battery. You're going to have that type of, adversive to it. And others like the Dogtra, which is what we highly recommend with training at species, is because of the range in which it goes from. Most of them go from 0 to 127, and When you go from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, it's actually that. It's a gradual increase. So if you're putting it on yourself, for me, most of them, the ARCs, the 1900s, even the Dachshund Minis, I had to be about 20 to 25 on my skin to be able to even feel it. But if you go from 21 to 22, it's no difference. 23 to 25, really no difference. 25 to 26, now you're starting to notice a difference between 26 and 20, right? And so that allows you to dial it in to the appropriate level for the scenario to get the results that you want. Okay. And then those particularly stimulate the muscle. So if you've ever had physical therapy and you use like a TINS unit on yourself or in physical therapy where it's contracting the muscle, kind of pulsates, you can actually see that. If you put it on your neck or in yourself or even your dog, you'll see them kind of twitch when they get it. And so it's that more blunt kind of adversive and more effective for the dog to not want to keep challenging this, where it's such a high level pain, like a true shock would be.
Yeah, a lot of people call them shock collars. The dog chair does not feel like a shock at the lower range that you're talking about. It literally feels like somebody is tapping, physically tapping, because like you said, it stimulates the muscle.
Yeah, and yeah, it pairs nicely when we do second and third phase transition. It pairs nicely that tapping sensation as if you're getting a star mark correction where you're just pumping the leash, that real annoying sensation. And that's why we use them. I get great results with them. Let's see here. Next one is from Dog Daddy 2321. Is it possible for a breed that has lost its original traits to get closer to its roots over time? So I'm not 100% sure about that question. I'm assuming the question is meaning like a poorly bred breed that was supposed to be bred to do one thing is no longer doing that. So I will say I like to pick on German Shepherds because there's so many different lines of them. So we'll pick on the poor German Shepherd. Assuming I'm correct here. So you have a German Shepherd that maybe was bred for like show lines, that they pretty much bred out the aggression and having that dog not be aggressive in the show ring because they can't nip at the judges, AKC rules, they can't nip, they can't show any type of aggression, it's immediate disqualification. So they breed that stuff out. They just want a really just pretty dog. They want to just look like the classic German Shepherd look and perform well in the ring like that. So once you start breeding those traits out, it's difficult to get those types back. It's still a German Shepherd. Those traits have been kind of bred out of them. So you can get some things there back, but you can't say yes. I have a show line German Shepherd instead of perform as if I got a working line import, from Czechoslovakia or East Germany or something like that, right? Just like you can't get, say, like a Basenji to be a retriever. It's just not in their innate ability to do those things. You can put a lot of work into them and get some things out of them, possibly. I know actually a trainer that had her Rottweiler and she's obsessed on training her to do retrieving work, and she was able to get modest amount of retrieving out of her. She wasn't going to work all day like a lab or a golden retriever would, but she was able to get that there. So how do you take that question, Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, I think we know there's some work being done, for example, with Frenchies, right? There's some breeders that are actually trying to make the French Bulldog go back to what it was many, 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 many years ago, where it didn't have such a smushed face, right? So that's not specifically talking about character traits, like you're talking about with working dogs, but we do know that over time, which is the big factor, if you do things correctly, you can influence the direction of where a line goes, but it takes a breeder that knows what they're doing. I certainly would think that people who got German Shepherds, specifically pet lines and show lines, to where they are would not really be able to do something like that because they don't understand the purpose of the breed in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are great questions, everybody. We appreciate the support. Keep bringing in the questions. It helps, the show have a little more context, a little more fun to it. So, keep it up. Remember, like and subscribe, so we can continue to get that support and that feedback from y'all, and keep doing this, because this it motivates us. The more people that subscribe and like it and comment, keeps us motivated to do this, because neither one of us are getting paid to do this right now. So maybe one day, who knows, future, maybe we'll get some sponsors or something. So on to today's subject. We were initially going to discuss, is my dog just being stubborn, and how that means. So first, let's classify stubbornness, right? We need to have a definition for what that means. So when you hear that word, Taylor, what do you think? What do you think the word stubborn?
I think of somebody that's refusing to do something, usually out of spite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always think back to the old saying, being stubborn as an old mule. You know, and yeah, it's stubbornness. I tell clients all the time that my dog's being stubborn. I'm like, well, stubbornness is a human trait. You can say that about your significant other, kid, something like that, but not your dog. Dogs lack motivation if they don't want to perform something. So you have to find the right motivation for it, right? And then pair that with the understanding of what they're being asked. So there's naive trainers out there because they just don't know, right? They just honestly they don't know. I don't believe bad trainers exist because they're like, I want to be a bad trainer. It's just what they were shown, and then they blame the dog instead of themselves. Where at species, if there's a problem going on, there's a side effect or something going on, we first look internally. Like, hey, what are we doing? What do we miss? What do we need to revisit? What do we need to do here to fix this? Because it's not the dog. It's never the dog. So when you think about that, you have to first, okay, does my dog understand what I'm being asking of them? What is it from their perspective, is being asked? So if you're asking your dog to climb a set of stairs and they've never done it before, and I don't care what level at in training they are, and you're using an e-collar or something like that, trying to get them to climb, they're afraid. Now, adding an aversive to it makes it even worse. And now they're going into fight or flight mode, or even possibly like freezing mode, where they're just going to drop out of the whole situation, and make the situation even worse. Now they have a negative association with stairs. Bad things happen to me when I go on stairs. So using, just positive reinforcement and treats and things like that to get them to understand the stairs are okay and they're safe, is the best practice to do that, and coax them through that and lead them through that, and having that whole relationship and trust with them, that they understand, okay, mom's never asked me to do anything before, it's gotten me hurt. Dad's never asked me to do anything, it's gotten me before hurt. I can trust him in this scenario, and we can go through that. And the dog can start to understand what's being asked. And that's the first step in all of that. And then second is the motivation. What's motivating this dog to work? Going back to that first question about attention and affection, right? Is your dog just really driven to get affection and love and praise? Or are they treat motivated? Or are they tug motivated and play motivated? So having that in there and having the dog understand what's going to be rewarding for them to perform the task at hand. You want anything to that, Taylor?
Yeah, I remember a long time ago, I had a dog that I was working with a trainer. This was before I knew anything about dog training. And he threw the e-collar on her and he said, "All right, we're gonna teach her a climb command." And didn't didn't show her it with treats, didn't show her it with luring. He just pointed to the thing, said climb, zap, And she went into learned helplessness, right? She shut down, literally head between her paws. And I remember thinking that this isn't right, right? I had an uneasy feeling. And I said that to him. And he looks at me and he says, "Well, she's just being stubborn." And at the time, it didn't feel right. And, hindsight is 2020. I should have handled it differently. I wish I would have. But that's a common theme you see with people is if, like you're saying, step one, does the dog understand what you're asking them to do?
Uh,
A lot of times people have an excuse not to make sure the dog understands by just saying, "Oh, he's being stubborn."
yeah.
Like the classic example when people are potty training and they come home and the dog had an accident, and someone somewhere said rub their nose in it, because they're doing it to spite you. It's like dogs don't do things to spite people. It's like you're saying, it's a human emotion, and beyond that, they don't have the capacity to string events together across time the way we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, punishment in that scenario would be totally useless and in fact would completely harm your relationship with your dog. So stepping outside of kind of that, what's the word when you humanize an animal? Anthropomorphic?
Yep.
Yeah, stepping outside of that viewpoint and understanding their viewpoint, it's helpful just as a basis for training, as a foundation for training.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, part of like the pyramid, right? Is perception. It's actually the very top. And always looking at the scenario through your dog's eyes and, what do they learn in the situation? You know, um, just talking about like just, punishment, dog runs away, you're calling them, you're calling them, you're calling them. They finally come running back to you, and the owner's like, bad dog, you let you run away. And the dog, what you just learned is, oh, I come to you and you're an a-hole and I get yelled at and hit. So next time I'm definitely not coming back to you.
Yeah.
So reward behaviors you want and discourage behaviors that you don't want. So if your dog's coming back to you, that's the behavior that you want. So reward that behavior, and then get some proper training so they come first command or don't even break at all.
Uh-huh.
So it's very important to understand those things within the realm of the dog's perspective, and understanding, is my dog understanding what I'm asking of them? Like in our way we train, we have a very strict command structure that we call it. So it's the dog's name followed by the command. And if they're still learning, then we're doing the lure or prompting to get them into the command followed by the reward. And then as we kind of fade off all those things and we get in the second phase, depending on where we're at second phase, we might be adding a leash pump for like a small like correction. It's just more annoying than anything else. And when we get to that level, one of the things you start to see if the command structure is off is a lot of false disobedience, where the dog is guessing because they want to avoid a correction. So the person's saying, Rover down, Rover sit, and it's too fast. So the dog only knows what they know, and they hear that sound, right? They don't understand words like humans do. So when it's that smeared together, Rover sit, it's all really one sound, but they do catch on like, oh, I heard my name. I was told a command. I didn't really understand it, but I'm going to guess at it because I'm going to get a correction otherwise. And so we have to be very slow and deliberate in that. So it's, Rover, down, good boy, love, affection, right? And that's the only way you really know if they're actually understanding the command at that point before you can start adding punishment, any type of a correction. Because again, it's not the dog being stubborn. Maybe you're saying it too fast. And we need to fix that for them by slowing the command structure down. And that's probably one of the things that a lot of, clients and people starting out struggle with the most, because they're really trying to get through it. They're trying to do the training. They're nervous, whatever it is. And they start talking really fast in the training sessions. And I'm constantly like telling my clients, slow down. And it really works for my clients that do virtual stuff or doing their homeworks, and they submit those, and we're recording them. And I'll purposely slow it down and like to like half speed so they can hear it. And like, that's how it should sound. Let's play it at normal speed so you see how fast you're saying it. And they're like, wow, I am saying that really fast. I'm like, yeah, that's why when you said down, your dog sat. But when you slow it down, the dog starts knowing the commands. Boom, boom, boom. I'm like, okay, it's a person problem now. It's a handler issue, not so much a dog issue. But with that stubbornness, it comes back to that attitude, right, of training. Going into the training scenario, that you're here for the dog's best interest and the handler's best interest. Building that relationship and continually to build that trust between the two of them. So again, we get those scenarios where my daddy's never asked me to do something that's gotten me injured. Okay, kind of a funny story. I took Taliana on a road trip. We went to Georgia, and it's the first big trip for her like that. It was a pretty long drive. We stayed in a couple different hotels. We get to Georgia. We get to the hotel we're staying at, and she'd never been in an elevator before. So we get in the elevator. We go up. No problem. No, fine. We get settled into the room. I'm going to take her outside, go walk around, go play with her, go stretch her out a little bit. Just have some fun, just kind of explore the area we're at. Never been there myself. Want to go check it out. Get in the elevator and hit the down button. I didn't even think about it. My fault. My bad. Not even really sure what I would have probably done different other than been a little ready for her response, but hit the down button and elevator drops and starts going down, and she is Spider-Man's to the floor. Looks up at me, Dad, and was like, Daddy, the floor's moving, the earth is moving, we're gonna die. She kind of freaked out a little bit. She got a little scared. And I recognized that. So I got her back up, gave her some love. I was like, okay, we're gonna do this again. So we went back up in the elevator, went down again, let her experience it, giving her that affection and changing her perspective of, oh, this is fun. But again, at that point, I'd done a lot of training with her, and she knew I've never asked her to do anything that's going to get her hurt. And I was there with her. I stayed calm and relaxed, just giving her affection and love. And then she's fine after that. And then we went out and had fun and just played tug and did our thing. And then I realized while we were there, I'm like, you know what? She's never been down like a big flight of stairs. I'm on the third floor in this hotel. I'm like, no, we're going to go up the stairs. So we go upstairs, no problem. She's running upstairs. Going down, if you've ever been in the elevators, the stairs inside the hotel, they're really long, right? They're really big steps. So, if you're a little person, you're probably stepping on each step as you go down with both feet instead of step 1, 2.
Why'd you look at me when you said little person?
Well, you're the only one in the room. And Igor's at my feet. And so Taliana, she's never been there. So we start going down, and she plants her back feet and starts walking with her front feet. Well, her front feet are 3 or 4 steps down, where her back feet are still at the top of the stairs. And I had to encourage her to walk down and build that trust. Luckily, they were solid, so she couldn't see through them. Dog's depth perception's a little off, when stuff like that, so it'd been even weirder for her. But again, we did that. I went up and down the stairs with her a few times. She got comfortable on how to walk down it, and I built that trust. It was another level of that trust that her and I built together. That, hey, look, Daddy's never asked me to do anything that's got me harmed, got me in trouble, or hurt, or anything like that, and this is fine. I just had to show her how to do it correctly. And that parlayed right into when we started doing protection work. That was just one more level of that trust and things when we started doing protection work with her. That again, she was never been asked to do anything that's gotten her hurt, and she loves doing protection work and doing that and having fun. So, always having that perspective of your dog's best interest in mind, and showing them and being the leader that they want you to be, and controlling those things, but showing them the right answer and showing them the way, and will build that trust and that relationship with you throughout time that you have your dog. It's an amazing thing when you can start doing that.
For sure.
Do you have anything you want to add to that about the attitude or?
Yeah, I mean, I think for some dogs, it's more natural for people to be understanding. I think of a dog like my dog Tally. Whoever had her before we found her just was very abusive. She's very scared of new things. And it's really easy to be understanding, I think, for anyone when they see Tally about why she's so scared, because you have a lot of sympathy for her, or empathy for her. But then I think of a dog like Bowie, right? Where Bowie's issues are more along the lines of I'm gonna bite first, ask questions later, and it's a lot easier to get frustrated there because you think, well, this doesn't make sense. This isn't good. Um, but both kinds of dogs need understanding from their handlers, whichever type you have, and they need you to have their best interest in mind and to understand that nothing's coming out of spite. It's you needing to understand the dog more because the dog is just a dog. They're doing what a dog does. Um, yeah, I really like your Spider-Man story. You were making me think of how Tally, um, she's so scared of everything, and we got to a point where we have a rooftop tent when we go camping. It's a tent on top of the truck, so you have to take a ladder to get up there. And she's our smallest dog, so we take her up into the tent at night. And I was coming down one morning, and she was looking at me. Normally, we just carry her down the ladder, and I just kind of looked at her and I held up my arms, And we've spent 2 years now building trust, and she jumped and trusted
Yeah.
me to catch her. And I was like, talk about a literal trust fall. Like, it was so good to know our relationship was at that point.
Yeah. She knew you weren't gonna get hurt. Um, when we first, well, not even first, but when we were wrapping up training with Tally, you and I trained virtually with both your dogs. I've had the pleasure of meeting both of them, Bowie and Tally, over the time that we've known each other, um, on a couple different occasions. But one of your kind of final things with Tally was at the park and taking her up the stairs.
Hmm.
And then she was a little skittish going up the stairs, but then the reward for her became fun because she realized the slide was fun.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that was her reward. Like, okay, I get over the fear of going up the stairs, but then I get to go on the slide, and then basically can't keep her off of that. I had the same thing with a client dog that I'm working with. The big old German Shepherd, and same thing. Like, we're just building that confidence. I was having him climb stuff, work on his agility things. So we're climbing up the stairs, and we did it 2 or 3 times. And he gets to the slide, and he kind of looks down a little bit, and he decides to go for it, and down the slide he went. And now it's like almost impossible to, like, every time he sees it, he's like a little kid, he sees the slide and everything, and he wants to go do it. So it's kind of a fun area where the housing check they live, when they're doing their walks and things with them, they can get to the end of their walk, and it's pretty much at the park there, so they can go let him play on the slide and just be a little kid. And so that's his Premac principle. Okay, you got to behave on your walk, you can't react, you got to hold the heel and do all these things. At the end of it, get to go play at the park and go on the slide and things. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great story, and there's plenty of those. Where handlers from all genres, just pet dogs to working line dogs and things like that, where they just have that amazing trust in that relationship because of everything they went through together, and to be able to perform and have that trust. Think about it. Special operations guys, that have canines. These dogs, they're fast roping, they're jumping out of helicopters, they're parachuting with these handlers, they're swimming with these dogs, they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, those dogs are genetically bred. They're selectively breeding to have these lines, but at the end of the day, a dog is still an animal. It's gonna have a self-preservation attitude for themselves, but they build through that trust and that repetition of training and working and living with their handler to know they have my best interest. So it's going to be okay to go jump in a dark ocean and go swim.
Hmm.
It's going to be okay to fast rope out of this really loud helicopter and dirt and stuff's flying everywhere, and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
you know, um, and so that's extreme side, right, of like versus going down a slide or climbing some stairs. But that's what it comes down to, is that bond, that relationship, and that's why there's tons of books written about canines, military
Mhm.
working canines, where their handlers lost their dog for whatever reason. Wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
It's because they had that bond, that connection, that brotherhood, that I couldn't imagine what that's like,
Yeah.
at that level.
Yeah, my uncle, he was a canine handler for police department, and the dog was an explosive ordnance detection dog. And when that dog sadly passed away, I remember he wouldn't wash his car for months. And he said it was because he loved looking in the rearview mirror and seeing his partner's nose artwork on the
Yep.
windows. And it's just like a small detail, but it really like showed like what you were talking about. Like the bond there is it goes deeper than just you're my dog. It's you're my partner,
Yep.
and we trust each other. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an amazing bond, and it all comes back down to that trust and understanding, and building the relationship and not harming it, and
Mhm.
understanding what are you teaching the dog. There's an old saying. I want to say it's from like the British Air Corps or something like that, and it's I gotta find where it's from, but it's along the lines of every handler has a dog they deserve.
Mm, I like that.
And it comes down to your dog only knows that you teach them, so teach them right, and you deserve whatever dog you have, you know, because they're only gonna learn you. And you'll hear canine handlers all the time, law enforcement and stuff like that, where the attitude goes down the leash.
Yep, it goes down
you
the
know
leash.
so having the right attitude and the training and what you're working with and what your goals are, goes a long way.
For sure.
Perfect. Well, I think that concludes today's podcast. A lot of good information, good questions. Please like, share, and subscribe. All that fun stuff, people. Again, it motivates Taylor and I to come on here and tell cool stories and do stuff and talk about dog training and just the world of dogs and whatnot. If anything you want to see or hear or talk about, please share it. You can contact us at speciescanine.com, or you can just put it in the comment section. Rather put it in the comment section because that feeds the algorithm to YouTube to get our stuff out there and share it. If you find this helpful, share it with people. Let them know. Let them see this out there so we can help more and more people out there and get more questions answered. Help dogs and their handlers live better lives together. That's our goal here. So if there is something you want to see or understand, let us know. If there's video or training you want to see, things like that, I have hundreds of hours of training it's not public. It's private. It's private training stuff with my clients, things. But more than happy to do some little snippets and cut it out, and keep the anonymity to the clients and things, and be able to show you guys what you want to see out there. Or if I need to make a video with one of my dogs, or one of Taylor's dogs, we can always do that to help you all out. Well, appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Taylor. Having a great afternoon. It's a beautiful day out there, and we will see you next time.